Hey everyone, you are listening to the podcast Trust the Process, a safe space where you will hear from us women balancing their fitness, health while life goes on. Balanced diet, muscle gain, fat loss, new motherhood, getting back in shape, menopause onset, and so much more. And you are tuned into our fifth episode Healthy Eating for Busy Women. And this is your host, Yasha, based in Singapore. I am professionally a cloud technologist, a visual artist, a wife, a mother, a dog mom, and most importantly, a fitness enthusiast.
And this is Shanti, based in Malaysia, a cybersecurity specialist, a wife, a mom to two boys and one dog, a budding Veena player, an avid reader, a globetrotter, and of course, a fitness enthusiast. And in this episode, we are going to talk about what it means to eat healthy while managing a busy life. And by the end of this episode, we hope to ensure that being busy is no more an excuse to not being able to eat healthy.
Okay, so I am very excited to talk about this topic, Shanti. And having just done the previous episode on yo yo diets, it makes total sense to continue throwing light into the diet and eating journey. Just as a reminder to our listeners who might have not tuned before, the episode 4, that is the previous episode, was where we tried our best to demystify yo yo diets.
Absolutely. I think we can talk more on this topic, and it's good that we attempted to clarify what yo yo dieting is, our points of view on that, its consequences, and whether it is useful or not. But you're right, it's time to take the next step and see what is right when it comes to prioritizing a healthy way of eating.
Well, Shanti, I want to first talk about what is the definition of healthy eating. Look, a healthy way of eating might be different for different people, right? Example for athletes or a particular sports person or a person dealing with some sort of illness or someone at a certain age and any other such life or career situation. A healthy diet plan may look completely different for these personas. However, for a regular common person, the baseline of a healthy diet should be more or less same, right?
Right, and this reminds me of what we discussed as a blueprint diet for each of our own, as we are all as unique as our fingerprints. And today, we want to focus on a section of our population, busy bees. I mean, particularly busy women. So, who are busy women? Like you and I? Well, I think it's the same definition of multiple personas that we always talk about, Yasha. It could be a high flying career woman at her peak, a mom to two young children. It could also be a student studying and trying to balance her life, etc. But basically, what we're saying is that women whose plate is full and they do not want an additional task of spending hours and hours on the topic of, hey, what to eat every day.
Well, yes, you're right. Usually we give such less importance on planning the meals when everyone is busy making a life for only one reason. What is that? To be able to eat and sleep with the stomach full, isn't it? Well, ask my mom or sister or any women my age group. They are so frustrated chalking out a menu for all three meals every day, 7 days a week. It can be a task, and you have to keep everyone happy in family who might have different choices.
Oh, yes, the $1 million question in every home. What's for dinner tonight? So, are you also alluding to that while keeping everyone happy? We women sometimes deprioritize ourselves and just tick the food mark while keeping the light switched on, Yasha?
I am, yeah, actually, I am. That is a very well observed phenomena, isn't it? I have seen my mom doing that. Literally, I used to do that as well. Partly because of ignorance, too, I think. Like, we never pondered on what a really healthy diet should be. And also as per the needs and requirements of that particular phase in life, right?
I know. And we have all seen women doing that, like a chef or of a restaurant or an owner of a hotel. They feel pride and satisfaction serving others. And then we women, well, a lot of times, we play the role of the primary owner of the kitchen and hence try to imitate that behavior subconsciously. So I totally agree with you here.
So, guess what we are talking about? It's a combination of issues. It's rather a compounded issue when it comes to healthy eating habits for women. Their habit of deprioritizing their own needs and requirements, subconsciously habitual of serving others, wearing multiple hats in life and at work, hence, picking food choices is something at the back of their list. And this all leads to developing unhealthy eating habits.
And then we blame everything on, hey, I'm a busy woman. I have no time to plan healthy eating every day. But is it that big a chore? So let's unpack this, at least with what you and I have done to handle this challenge in our respective lives.
Yeah, we must do this, Shanti. Well, I mean, I just want to ask you, was there a point in your life when you felt that your eating habits and choices probably are not the best to the fitness related goals, if you ever made those for yourself, or even to feel like you belong to a healthy body?
Oh, yeah. And I think I did talk about this in one of our initial episodes that I was stuck with a particular diet of skipping rice and calling it carb age too. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I'm extremely guilty of that and I'm truly apologetic about it. Also, I, I'm guilty of not adding enough protein to my usual South Indian diet, thinking, hey, that a bowl of the humble dal, that's the lentils, is just enough protein. And then I kept wondering, why am I not getting desired results on my own body? Or why am I constantly hungry?
I see. But the food type or cuisine is definitely not an issue, I think. It's always about making right choices as per the goal and needs of the body. Do you agree, Shanti?
I do agree. In fact, not complaining about the type of food because as I was always eating the home cooked food anyway. But I think it's about the aspects of portion control and ensuring that all nutrients are covered and also prioritizing my own liking at times.
That's so important, your own liking, right? I think other than the yo-yo diet phases I went through in my 20s, I actually started focusing on healthy eating when I was pregnant with my son, at least as far as I remember. I really made an effort to pick healthy eating habits. For example, a very interesting habit you would like to hear about is including at least 4 to 5 colors of fruits daily in my diet. And that came from that phase of my life.
Wow, that's a really interesting one. And it's a very familiar one too. So, however, it seems like you prioritized eating for the baby. This actually brings back to the point that women are nurturers and we care more about others than ourselves, right?
No, you're right about that. You can put it that way. But I was just recalling my first few encounters of healthy eating, consciously healthy eating habits that stayed with me forever. So, this multicolored fruits in a day was one great habit I made. And I found that in various cultures, this is common, like Korean, Indian, etc. But I actually prioritize my meals and eating habits in very recent past few years, up to an extent that most of the times my meals are completely different than the whole family every single time in the day. Especially when I'm chasing a goal, for example, fat loss, muscle gain, cut phase, or training for a race, etc. And I'm proud to say that now. I do not feel guilty about it, and neither do I feel lazy in preparing different type of food at each meal if everyone in the family doesn't want to eat that food, right? Because it suits my need.
That's a super important point you brought up, Yasha. You said it. I mean, the number one point, as we already talked about, is we do not have time to prep different meals at each time just to suit our goals. So, where do you shell out time for that?
Look, we did talk about how we plan the week ahead in terms of making time to be fit, in terms of exercises, etc. I know it is difficult and it is unreal sometimes to plan all your, what is it, 7 into 321 meals ahead of a week. No, I'm not saying that. But I plan at least 2 to 3 meals in advance. And it is really simple, no rocket science. Like I was sharing with a dear friend who is struggling to plan healthy eating for herself, that look, we can't change our meals or its ingredients by a huge degree. We will still eat those 10 to 15 things in a week that are staple to us in the sense what we grew up eating and what we easily get in our geography where we live in. So it's all about playing around with those options and addressing your macros.
Yep. And it is important to note that by eating healthy, Yasha and I, we're not saying, hey, change your entire life upside down and start eating something that is unthinkable from the life you've been living so far. So, what I did was, I realized I had two essential boxes to check to improve my diet. One, to include more protein in my diet. That is, even if I'm not aiming to grow muscles, I must at least eat protein equal to my weight in kilograms. In fact, it's best to eat 1.5 times of your weight. And two, control my portions and see if I'm eating the right amount of protein, carbohydrates, and good fats with a decent amount of fibers.
And this way, I guess it is not at all overwhelming to plan your meals. In your staple diet, you must find out the good sources of proteins, carbs, and fat and fibers. Just play around with those and plan your each meal. Having said that, we probably need to measure the quality and quantity of our meals from the perspective of macros for say 2 to 3 weeks, and then we will know the usual suspects. You know what I mean? That is, what food and how much quantity can give me my required nutrients per meal. That is the basics of planning meals.
Right. And we are not even talking about getting into the details of complex carbs versus good fats and bad fats because it's too much jargon right now. But what we're trying to simplify is that we all know what unhealthy food types that you can't indulge on an everyday, right? Except occasionally, of course. I'm talking about that fried food, cakes or pastries, sugary treats, and drinks, and all of that, right?
Hmm. However yum they sound. Shanti, when we start measuring our food in terms of macros, this is something I want to address. What are macros? Carbs, proteins, fats, fibers. We become aware of the ingredients of each item we are putting in our mouth. And that practice then settles in as a subconscious habit, which is when the magic happens. That is, unhealthy stuff takes backseat. Of course, there will be days occasionally, as you mentioned, when you go out, party or travel, etc., and indulge. Now, that is a whole another level when the habits become so mature that we start making choices even when we party, travel, or indulge to a limit. But of course, we are talking about level 100 first. And this is all coming from personal experience.
So that is about the what of the healthy eating, right? So we will not get into big jargons over here as I already mentioned, but I will reiterate that when we say macros, we mean high level nutrients, that is your protein, fat, carbohydrates and fibers. Now let's talk about the how. The original question of how to find time to make those meals healthy or make the healthy meals in time. So, Yasha, I have a lot of friends in so many countries, right? And they tell me that, hey, Shanti, I do not have the support system all the time to spend a lot of time in planning food and preparing accordingly. But I think I used to also think the same. And for the record, I have lived in four different countries in the last 2 decades with two boys. But it is really not that difficult because I think it all boils down to planning. Don't you think so, Yasha?
I do. I am on same page. It is really not an earth-shattering change, to be honest. It does seem so, but it's not. At times, it sounds like a chore, to be honest. But when you love doing it, because you know it's the love for your own body. So, coming back to our own stories on how we made it possible, let me share how I handle this on day-to-day basis. Yeah, Shanti. When I was doing a strict fat loss muscle gain program few months back, I did follow the diet my coach provided me to follow, and with a lot of ups and downs. I am actually rolling my eyes right now, and a lot of setbacks. One thing was clear that for any fitness goal to achieve, diet plays a major role. At that point of time, my whole focus was to cut back fat from my daily food choices and increase the protein amount in every meal. Every meal, at least 30 to 40 grams of protein. Well, that suited my weight, of course. And with that, I didn't want to start eating something from another planet. That is the food that I have never eaten. What I mean is just circulate similar or usual ingredients, but focusing more on the mix and match of the nutrients. So it was simple. There were 3 to 5 lean protein choices available both in vegetarian and non vegetarian options, similar cases for carbs, fibers, and good fat. So it was just planning the meals according to that. That was my planning gig.
So, what we're saying is that how healthy eating starts with what type of food I have to eat, then stock up your raw materials to suit that food. Right, Yasha? So it starts with your groceries and stocking up your refrigerator, which is a really big task, but yes, that it starts off with that.
Well, yeah, everything starts and ends there, no? From farm or market to your kitchen, and ultimately, what happens in the kitchen.
I know what happens in our kitchens. Yes, and I do that also, Yasha. I plan my groceries over the weekend. I think I already mentioned this in my last episode, and once maybe in the midweek as well. I do get all my farm fresh vegetables, the lean meat, tofu, tempeh. That lasts me at least a week. And I know usually how and what I will do to mix it up to last for the entire week. And in fact, with healthy and portion control eating, I have to say this that it has become easier because I don't really need to think about 100 types of cuisines for every meal. But of course, yeah, I do bake or cook special meals over the weekends or holidays or when my younger one comes back home from his hostel. But yeah, the regular eating is easy, well planned, and I'm not saying that life has become boring with respect to food. What I'm saying is that you have to plan your food as well in the same way as you plan your day with regards to going to work, finishing your tasks, etc. All Yasha and I are saying is do not take your meals for granted, please.
Yay, yeah, 100%. So again, time to summarize the how part of eating, healthy eating for busy people, which we already said is not a rocket science, it's just managing. So we want to leave you with few tips over here. Some of this would be what we have already said, but let's summarize. Tip number one: know your needs and nutrients as per your goals. Even if you're maintaining, but be aware of what your body needs at a particular period in your life. And it is not about only about fat loss, muscle gain, getting toned, etc. It's also about the age group you fall, the nutrients, the deficiency, and the stage of life. For example, lactating mothers, teenager girls, or women in perimenopause or menopause phase. Just be aware of your needs, and it starts from there.
And from knowing what you need, I think the rest all comes easy, right? So, tip number two is to stock up your kitchen with the food you want to eat. Remove unhealthy snacks and replenish your kitchen cabinets with these items like fresh vegetables and fruits for fiber, grains and nuts for that healthy carbs and fiber again, and protein sources, whether you're a vegetarian or non vegetarian, right? And you can also stock up some healthy snacks if you don't have time to prep snacks, like portion of nuts, seeds, fruits, dry fruits. All of them are very good sources.
Right. And when the kitchen is full, time for tip number three. Plan for a few days in advance. Create a mental model of your menu. A couple of breakfast options that will be better if you start your day with a high protein breakfast, a mix of veggies, grains, and protein with healthy fats in your lunch, and same for dinner. Rotate these 10 to 15 staple ingredients and create variety as you like. A lot of times I eat lunch at the office due to the meetings and lunch networking sessions. I prefer to pick healthy choices there as well, like a buddha bowl, a salad bowl with some protein in it, etc. Right? You can always plan it that way.
And tip number four is for a few weeks, please measure your food macros. That is, bring back the awareness that we created in point number one. Know your needs in terms of food and then match it with what really went into your system. This will tell us clearly if a plan has worked or not.
I think we need to stick to this for at least 3 to 4 weeks to create a rhythm, right, Shanti? That's not a tip number 5, but that's given.
That's a given. Yeah, I also strongly suggest so because we all know life happens and we should at least give a few weeks for life to adjust in between this time period. Because, I'm sure there will be expected turns like an invitation to a party or a gathering you can't refuse, a probable moment of sickness for you or your family, or any such challenge. So the plan will be then tested during these unexpected moments, but I think that's what life is.
Yeah. Life can be unexpected. So remember, we are not aiming to create a short-lived diet chart here. What we are trying to do is creating a sustainable, healthy eating lifestyle that has a long way to go. We must not get discouraged by sudden hiccups. So what I'm saying is, I have often seen family and friends, and myself as well, right? That in those unexpected or weaker moments, we fall for old habits, sometimes to pamper ourselves. Other times, it's hard to keep multiple variables in life when something else is already not going well. So, we are giving you a disclaimer that to create a healthy lifestyle, we must look above and beyond these hiccups. So, a hiccup here and there is okay, but then come back to your mainstream.
Yeah, and please remember it's not a crime to indulge sometimes. But of course, the initial few weeks when you're making the change, they're super important. So we hope some of these tips will stick to you and some of these aspects will work for you, as those have definitely worked for Yasha and me, which is why we are in fact sharing through this podcast. We're all alike and we face similar challenges. But please remember, we are also not experts and did not come from some other planet. We are only here to tell our stories because we think our experience can help some of you.
Yeah, definitely. I hope you have noted our tips down and will come to us to let us know if that has worked for you. It will be awesome to hear back. Um, and with that, Shanti, I think we will end this episode and we'll come back with a new one in next fortnight, with more stories to tell, more tips to share. Until then, keep trusting the process. Do not forget to rate and follow the podcast. It will mean a lot to know your feedback. And also, please feel free to comment and raise questions or topics that you want us to cover and talk about.
Until then, trust the process. Bye bye and take care.